In today's video, I'm discussing one very predictable thing the covert narcissist always does. Let's get started. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tamie M. Joyce. I'm an empowerment life coach specializing in codependency and narcissistic abuse recovery for empaths, scapegoats, and awakening light leaders. If you're new to my channel, a very special welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comment section below. And if you're back, welcome back. Thanks for showing up and for tuning in. Either way, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a new video. Now, before I dive into the one very predictable thing that covert narcissists always do, I want to touch on the difference between overt or grandiose narcissism and covert narcissism, as well as point out some of the telltale signs that will help you discern whether or not the person you're dealing with is likely to be a covert narcissist. Now, to begin with, covert narcissism is a subtype or subgroup of the destructive narcissist personality pattern. And let's not forget that destructive narcissism, overt or covert, is on a spectrum, a continuum. These issues are never black or white. In other words, a destructive narcissist personality pattern will manifest in varying degrees from one individual to another. And that said, it's important to understand that the covert narcissist will present very differently than their more overt or grandiose counterparts. Unlike the grandiose narcissist, the covert narcissist will seem reserved, shy, demure even, initially. In reality, they're socially awkward, and they often use withholding behavior to emotionally manipulate and attempt to control others. And that includes their friendships and family relationships, by the way, not just romantic. They'll appear to be very private people to the point of hiding and keeping secrets, often oddly so. The kind of things that one would normally share within the context of close personal friendship or any real and genuine relationship, in the spirit of simply being honest and forthright, will be kept from you for no apparent reason. They hold their cards unnecessarily close to their chest, which, in my opinion, is a manifestation of how insecure and shame-based they actually are. But there's more to it than that. Being in the know and knowing something that you don't gives them a false sense of power and superiority. Underneath their phony, demure, and self-effacing facade, they actually believe they're better than everyone else, and therefore feel entitled to lie by omission. With few exceptions, they prefer to keep family and friends at a safe distance. This reduces the likelihood they'll be found out for the frauds they actually are. And this is why they allow very few people to get close to them. Most of their relationships can be characterized as terribly superficial. They hide and they lie a lot. They hide people, things, money, and of course their past, as well as any responsibility of their own that led to the demise of a friendship or any other relationship. And for those of you who are highly empathic, this tendency they have to be so secretive is your first clue. I, for one, can feel it in my gut. Attempting to genuinely connect with someone of this ilk leaves an empath with an inexplicably uneasy feeling in our stomach. In my view, it's because there's nothing of real substance to connect with. And as empaths, we feel that emotionally and energetically. And this is because they're very much just going through the motions with you. And when you get that strange, disconnected feeling in your tummy, don't ignore it. It's one of your first clues when attempting to authentically relate to a covert narcissist. Again, try as you may, there's nothing of real substance to connect with. Which leads me to my next point. They are not authentic or genuine, although they sure can put on a good act. Hang out with them long enough, and you'll soon find out just how disingenuous they actually are. It usually won't be long before you notice their words and actions seldom align. They talk a good talk, but aren't very good at walking the walk. In reality, they can only feign love or respect, care, compassion, and concern. But once you know them well enough, you'll have mounting evidence as to just how unloving, uncaring, and insincere they really are. They are fundamentally fake, phony people who do not appreciate, sincerely care about, or love anyone, not even their own children, or stepchildren for that matter. Again, they'll talk a good talk, But a closer look at their choices or lack of action-based love, care, compassion, and common sense concern, in particular in relation to really big issues, will tell you everything you need to know about who and what you're dealing with. Although they act meek and timid, make no mistake, it's an act. These people are about as fragile as a Mack truck. The reality is, beneath the mask and false persona, they want to believe they're better than everyone else and therefore feel entitled to behave however they like. They never worry about the negative effects of their appalling choices and behavior on others. They feel they can do whatever they want and believe that somehow they're above having to experience actual consequences. And when they do have to face the music and pay the price for their poor choices and behavior, such as you've had your fill and you're done with the bullshit, they're shocked. They can't believe you've figured them out. They can't believe you have the audacity to not be fooled by their "I'm such a good human" performance. They can't believe you have standards, limits, and boundaries. It really is a form of delusional thinking. They actually do not expect to have to suffer consequences for their choices, obvious transgressions, and relationship crimes. Again, they feel entitled to do whatever they want and are astounded when they encounter any sort of pushback or experience the natural consequences of their decisions, the decisions they've made or promises they've broken. As far as they're concerned, they can disappoint, disregard, disrespect, and ignore you all day long. But when you have an issue with it, or God forbid, a feeling or opinion about it, how dare you? Again, they believe they're special and therefore entitled to behave however they please. And you have no right whatsoever to have a legitimate feeling response to their bullshit, never mind actually hold them accountable for what they've been up to. In addition, they spend a lot of time and energy trying to hide who they really are by playing the role of hero or savior. The message they work so hard to convey is, "I'm such a good person, so altruistic, so generous, and ever so giving," when in reality, their real motivation is self-serving and has a lot more to do with manipulating and controlling your perception than actually doing anything out of the kindness of their own heart. Now, comment below and tell me whether or not you have someone in your life who fits this description, and if so, who are they? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. Now, with all of that said, what is the one predictable thing that covert narcissists always do? They play the victim card. They'll play victim in particular to circumstances that they themselves have created and perpetuate. They are, in fact, the poster child for the perpetual victim. Always. No matter what has gone on, you can count on it, predict it with 100% accuracy, just like clockwork. And this is true no matter how appalling they themselves have behaved, no matter how many times they drop the ball, screw up, disappoint, or deliberately and intentionally harm another. Somehow, they always manage to land on the victim side of the story. And what's confusing about the covert narcissist is they can be pretty good at feigning empathy. So unless you know the signs, it's easy to be duped by this master manipulator. Certainly the first few times anyway. And if you want to learn more about how to identify and manage the covert narcissist, you can watch this video here. Now that said, understand that feigning empathy is a manipulative ploy, and it sounds like this. "I feel so bad, just terrible," while simultaneously having all manner of excuses, justification, and rationalization designed specifically to cast themselves as the victim to circumstances they themselves have created, and again, even perpetuate. This is classic behavior for the covert narcissist. Their whole MO revolves around creating and maintaining their false image, casting themselves as such a well-intended, innocent, and good-hearted human, no matter how badly they've behaved. Somehow they're sure to make sure you know all the reasons why they're actually the good guy, and you've completely misunderstood them. and their motives again. How many times do you have to have that experience before you start recognizing there's a pattern of behavior at play? And it fundamentally boils down to this person going through life as a perpetual victim. Again, no matter how poorly they themselves have behaved or what they themselves have done to create and perpetuate the circumstances they claim to be victimized by. You'll also know them by the number of times you have so-called miscommunication. It goes like this. They say A, you move forward taking A at face value and them at their word. Then they claim that they never said A, which often results in you not only looking bad, that's right, you've been set up, score for the covert narcissist, but also leaving you feeling confused, doubting and second guessing yourself and your own perception of reality, the first time anyway. And listen, anyone can have a miscommunication, but there's a big difference between a one-off miscommunication and a pattern of behavior on repeat. At a certain point, you have to acknowledge what you're dealing with. Either they have some sort of cognitive issue that needs medical attention, or you're being manipulated, gaslit, lied to, lied about, and if you don't know any better, fully duped. Without question, what you're dealing with the covert narcissist is the master of the dupe, until you know the signs and what to be on the lookout for. Now again, know up front, these are never black or white issues, which of course can make covert narcissism a little tricky to spot, in particular in the beginning, when you're first getting to know someone and they're putting their best foot forward and they're on their best behavior. You're being presented with the mask, the false persona, and all of the emotional manipulation and perception manipulation that goes on in the early stages with these folks. But again, when you know the signs, it can make it a lot easier for you to discern exactly who it is you're dealing with. And if you want to understand more about the mindset of the covert narcissist, you can watch this video here. That said, don't be hard on yourself if you've missed the signs early on, or if it took you some time to start wondering why things weren't adding up. The truth is, even the most highly trained mental health professionals will admit to missing the early warning signs with both overt and covert narcissists. They're not always easy to identify, but my intent with this video is to give you some solid telltale signs that will help you determine who and what it is that you're actually dealing with, so you can take care of yourself and avoid the pitfalls of relating to these empathy-impaired and highly toxic emotional manipulators. And the truth is, although destructive narcissism in general can be difficult to spot, covert narcissism can be more challenging. Why? Because, as I said at the top of the video, these people present quite differently than your typical classic grandiose narcissist. Just know that covert narcissism, which is also known as the shy, closet, hungry, or vulnerable narcissist, is just as dangerous and destructive as their more overt counterparts, and therefore best avoided in so much as you're able. They don't show up with the typical outward sense of entitlement and superiority and grandiosity. Rather, they present as being very shy, timid, insecure, often self-effacing, and sometimes even highly anxious, in particular about how others see them and what others think about them. That's a huge preoccupation for the covert narcissist, which is why they go to such great lengths to manipulate your perception of them, and also why they become so triggered, bitter, and resentful when their best efforts to convince you that there's something they aren't successful, and they know you've seen behind the mask. When this happens, look out, they will retaliate. Now, being the cowards that they are, their preferred method of retaliation will be to poison the minds and hearts of others towards you. Distance will be your best friend in this scenario. Anyone who knows you and is worth their salt knows who you are and won't fall for the covert narcissist BS narrative. Anyone who takes what the covert narcissist says for cash without so much as giving you the benefit of the doubt or the benefit of a conversation, well, in my opinion, good riddance. Let them align with the covert narcissist. They probably deserve one another. You do you, boo, unapologetically. And when people fall away from your life, in particular in this fashion, let them. Rejection is protection, no matter who they are. Trust that the divine has your back. She does, I promise. And don't forget, the covert narcissist carries a lot of high anxiety. Even if they're really good at hiding it, they twist a lot emotionally, internally. When I think of those that I've known personally in my own life, they are truly sad, tortured souls. And for that reason, I have a lot of compassion for these people. But I have learned the hard way many times over to have compassion from a distance. Because make no mistake, as much as they may appear to be harmless and fragile, sweet, soft, good, kind, and demure, they're anything but. In fact, what they really are is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Cross one and you'll find out to what degree, and probably very quickly. They are absolutely without question just as lacking in empathy, lacking in conscience, carrying an irrational sense of entitlement and false sense of superiority, although their delusions of grandeur and grandiosity may be more internalized than externalized, like your classic overt narcissist. Make no mistake, those delusions of grandiosity and tendencies to manipulate, harm, and exploit are alive and well. So keep your distance. Fundamentally, what it boils down to when we're dealing with someone who fits the profile of a covert narcissist is you're dealing with a severely wounded inner child who is constitutionally incapable of doing the real work necessary to heal and grow up, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. In spite of outward appearances and all of their best efforts to portray themselves as adults actually adulting, if you get close enough, this will become very obvious. They show up in their relationships as entitled, childish, envious ingrates. In fact, in addition to their perpetual victim stance, those are the 4 words that I would use to most accurately describe the covert narcissist that I've encountered in my own life. And there have been a number of them, not least of which my biological mother, who, I believe, was high enough on the spectrum to qualify as malignant. They are best described as entitled, childish, envious ingrates who love to be seen as the victim. This describes the covert narcissist personality pattern most accurately, in particular, once the mask slips and you get a peek at the real deal beneath the phony facade they work so hard to present to the world. And what can be most dangerous about dealing with these individuals, especially when you're coming from a place of having a high empathy nature and the desire to serve and help and really go to bat for people, is it's easy to mistake them for an untreated codependent who might have some narcissistic traits. But there's more to it than there just being this deeply wounded and very insecure codependent person. And when you're coming from a place of high empathy and are lacking in healthy boundaries yourself, it can be very easy to get sucked in and fully exploited and potentially seriously harmed even by this type of individual. And why is that? Well, because as I've said, they live from a victim stance perpetually. In fact, that will be a big red flag when getting to know them. If you know anyone in your life who, no matter what, always has a victim story, no matter what resources have been presented to them, no matter what help, support, guidance, assistant programs, you name it, have been offered to them, they always have a victim story, big red flag. You may very well be dealing with someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive covert narcissism. And this will be clear to you because no matter how many times you've forgiven them or what grace has been extended to them, they are living from a perpetual place of victimization, forever telling you their victim story, but are fully unwilling to do anything to change their circumstances or the dynamic they're forever complaining about. So there's your clue. And don't get me wrong here. Those of us who have been narcissistically abused, you've heard me say it before if you've tuned into me at all, we have been fully victimized. But that does not make us a covert narcissist. There is a big difference between choosing to walk through life as a perpetual victim, unwilling to make the necessary changes to improve your lot in life, versus acknowledging that you've been victimized so you can heal and move forward and create something better for yourself. There's a big difference between getting some sick kick out of being pitied and perceived as a victim versus acknowledging that, yes, unfortunately, I've been on the receiving end of some narcissistic abuse, maybe even from a covert narcissist, and therefore have been victimized, but that doesn't mean that I have to live my life as a victim. So there's a massive difference between the two, right? So let's not get confused here. We can't heal if we don't call a thing and acknowledge the truth of what we've lived. But that doesn't mean we have to unpack there. So know the difference. If you're an empath, you fully have the ability to heal, and it's high time you gave yourself the gift. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. If you liked what you heard, be sure to drop a like and a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. And if you're new to my channel, again, a very special welcome. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And also, once again, if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah! Much love. Bye for now.